Hello and welcome to this lesson. I'll start by showing you what databases means. We have this database under which we have the students database, under which we have tables, and we have two tables, the student and the student sum. Then we have views, and in this case, we don't have any views. We have not created any. We have stored procedures and functions. We'll get these views, stored procedures, and function later on. Then we have the system database under which we have tables. We have the system. If this is a system database, then we have views. We have these views, and that is, we have several views. Then we have stored procedures. We also have functions. And this is applicable in all our databases that we have. And to select a database, we just click on this, and we can view its information in details. Then if you are interested in a single table in this, we select on the table, click on the table, and we can click on this to visualize the table. Here is the table, and we have the student ID, we have the name, we have the class, we have the marks, and the student gender. Can also select these using specific commands. We can say select. We can use the use command to say we want to use specific database. In this case, we want to use base says and then a semicolon, and it should be selected. That is, use says, and there we go. We have selected the says database now. And if you want to use the students again, we just say students, and we run this. To run the command, we can click on this, or this if we have selected specific script which we want to run. We can also press the Control in Windows and the Enter key. I guess in Mac we have the Command and the Enter key. You'll notice that the commands we are using lowercase in our commands. We can also use the uppercase and it will still run. Let's change this to use, and it still runs because it is not case sensitive. However, it's always good to make sure we are using the uppercase for the command to identify them and distinguish them from the other entries. We have this small button here, which is used to reformat the SQL script or beautify them. We can click on that, and we have this. Then, since we are using this table, we are using the students database. Now we can select. Let's say we want to select all the entries from students. We have the student table. We want to use this, and now we can run this. Let's beautify that, and let's hit on. There we have a table. If we tried, let's say we are using the database, the employee database, and then we run this command. Sorry about that. It will not work because we have not selected under this. Under the employee database, we don't have the student table. Therefore, it's always important to make sure we have selected, or we are using the specific database that we have identified or selected. Now I would like to introduce you to how we create and use the databases. The easiest way to create a new database is just to click on here, and we say we want to create a new schema, and let's say we want a sample database, that is a sample DB, and we click on apply and finish. Then there we have our sample DB. We can also drop this, that is delete this. We can delete that. We want to drop the database. There we go. We have dropped the DB. And now we can also use commands to create the same database sample DB. And if we run this, we should have the new database. Yeah, we have the sample DB and it's empty. You can see we don't have any entries, we don't have any table. Then we can drop, that is drop, and there we go. The database is gone. But I want us to have the sample DB. Sorry about that. Create database sample DB and enter. There you go. We have sample DB, and then using the data, that is using the data definition language, that is commands from data definition language. Now we can create tables in this new database. We have now to specify that we want to use the sample and a semicolon, and we hit that. We have selected that. Then we can now create, or we can use just this lowercase, that is the small letter. Let's create a new student table. The create command is used to create new tables, and it follows a specific format. We have create, then we specify that we want to create a table, and the table name, let's call this student table, and then we can specify that the student table, or under the student table, we'll have the following attributes. We'll have student ID. We'll have the student ID, which will be integer, and the primary key. Then we'll also have the first name. Let's call this name, and it should be characters. That is, let's use the 50 characters, and then we should have the age of this student, which should be integer, and the gender, which should also be a character of 50, and that's it. We close this and have a semicolon at the bottom. Gender, we have an error at this point. We should have a comma there. We have now the code is correct, and remember I said we should always reformat these. Now we can, after reformatting these, now you can notice that let's make this full name. The commands or the keywords in SQL are in blue. We can now run this, and there we go. The command ran successfully, and when we refresh this, we should have a new table. Let's see, we should have a new table. Let's run that again. Let's see. Yeah, we have the new table. There we have a table, and if we can look at this, we'll have the student ID, the full name, the age, and the gender. That is, we have created a new table in the sample database. Then we can also, let's try to create a new table, and let's create a new table. Which table? Let's call this school, and then close that and say that the school table should have ID, which is, and key, that is the ID is integer and should be our primary key. Then let's have the name, which should be character, and let's now have the address of the school, which also should be character, and there we go. We have a save a new table, and we can close this and complete command with a semicolon. There we go. We can create, sorry about that, we can create a new table there, and let's see if the table appears. The table should appear. Now we have the school table, and that's our second command, and this, as we said, is data definition command. And now we can drop one of these table. Let's try to drop the table using the drop table command. Drop table, then we want to drop the school table, and we can beautify this. That is, you can make it look better by clicking on this. There we go. And if we run this, we'll have, now we have only one table. The school table is gone. That's it for dropping and for creating and dropping table. What next is updating all these records. The update statement is used to modify existing table, that is adding or removing data from this table. Before we update the table, we should enter data into this table, which is done using the insert into command. And this is also a data manipulation language command. We should enter this data into sample, the student, insert into, then we have the columns, and our columns are the ID. We also have the full name, we have the, and gender, we have the gender of the student, and then we can close these and say that the values for these commands, let's say 1 for the ID, let's have John Doe for the student name, full name. This should be in bracket, that is, should be enclosed, and we have John Doe. Then we have let's say 14 for the age, and gender should be, let's say, male. And we enclose these and complete the command and run that. Now, if we open the table, we should have one entry. Let's run this. We have an error, unknown ID. Let's see. We have the student ID, not ID. That is student ID. Student ID. There we go. And if we run this, let's see if there is any change. Not change yet. Let's run that. There we go. And let's check our table and see if the entry is correct. We have this. And now, if we have this entry, we can change, we can update our records. That is our current record. We have one student by the name John Doe. The age is 14 and he is male. And we can update the student. Now we could also enter another student. Let's have gender. Let's make that 12 years old, and she's female. And if we run this, there we go. We should have 2 students. And let's see if we have the 2 students. We have Jane Doe and John Doe.